Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Dawn Patrol. I'm Cliff Krieger, your host. Eileen Delrossi is on the phone on her way in. We have Jose Cervantes here and Anthony Leite.
That's pronounced late, like late for school.
Late for school.
That is correct, yes, sir. Good morning, everyone.
So, it's drizzly out. It's a little cool. It's not bad. It's not snowing.
Yes.
So,
It's Good Friday.
I think Cliff is upset you probably stole an item off of his agenda.
No, it being Good Friday, that should have been the top of the cavalcade. Jesus died for our sins. Should have been the top of the cavalcade.
I sent you the notes.
And I read them last night. I didn't see Good Friday. So that should be the top of the. It's Good Friday, everybody. Respect for all Christians today. Thank you. Back over to you, Cliff.
All right, page 2, right before the word topic.
Page 2, see that? Should have been top of page 1.
So,
Cliff's a bigger Catholic than me. The Pope knows Cliff's name.
you've been a kibitzer a long time. Anyway, the national debt's over $39 trillion, which leads into the first history item. In 1589, the Janissary revolt in response to the debasement of coins. Janissaries were the military in the Near East, especially Egypt. So that debt is not a problem until the day it is, and then it's going to be terrible. In
Cliff, we worship money. We go through this every week, and we worship
twice
paper.
a week.
Paper.
That's very true.
Yeah.
It's backed up with faith, which most of the country lacks. They don't have any faith in God. They have faith in that paper. They have faith in a piece of paper.
Well, actually, we're seeing more faith in God, right?
I'm sticking on this business that you say the quadrillion-dollar debt's a bad thing. It's based on paper.
Yeah.
Our faith on a piece of paper.
Right.
And you think that's going to, and I don't care where you go to any Muslim country you want, they want the U.S. dollar. Rather than their drachma or whatever kind of money they might have, rubles, I don't care what they call them, they prefer U.S. dollars.
And people are paying Iran to pass the Straits of Hormuz in
It's a
Chinese
toll.
currency.
A toll. In U.S. currency?
Chinese.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
They'll convert that to U.S. dollars soon.
1860, the first successful United States Pony Express run from St. Joseph, Missouri to Sacramento, California. launches out there. It turns out it was not a financial success. It went bankrupt in 18 months, replaced by the telegraph. On this date in 1865, Union forces captured Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Confederacy. In 1882, in the Old West, Robert Ford killed Jesse James.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, all right.
That is true. I did watch a pretty cool documentary on that.
You and I both.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
1936, Bruno Richard Hauptmann is executed for the kidnapping and death of Charles Lindbergh Jr., the infant son of aviator Charles Lindbergh.
Just as sad, yesterday, a 7.5-month-old baby got shot in the head in New York City in a gang fight.
Yeah.
7.5 months. Kids just beginning to talk. Terrible, terrible stuff.
It's horrible.
Blessings to the family and their child.
And the mayor blamed the gun.
No, I don't think he did. But that's okay. Proceed, Cliff, so we can talk to Anthony Lead about his campaign.
In 1942, Japanese forces began an assault on the United States and Filipino troops on the Bataan Peninsula, or if you prefer the Tagalog, the Bataan Peninsula. And in 1946, on this day, Japanese Lieutenant General Mishihara Homa is executed for leading the Bataan Death March. In 1948, President Harry Truman signs the Marshall Plan, authorizing $5 billion in aid for 16 countries.
Did Congress go against him? Or was that before the party wars? The great party wars of this century.
That was definitely before the party wars.
Okay. Right. The party wars rage on.
Imagine how much $5 billion from 1948 to now, how much money that would be.
That would have been as big as our national debt.
Holy smoke. Yeah. Wow. That is a $5 billion back then.
1948. I wonder, is that when they had a Republican from Massachusetts as the Speaker of the House? Probably so. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968 delivers his "I've Been to the Mountain" speech. He was assassinated the next day. Unfortunate. In 1996, the suspected Unabomber Theodore Kaczynski is captured at his Montana cabin.
Now, would this have been year 33? Or would this be year 0 for the crucifixion? 33, correct?
Right.
Is that in your history there?
Yeah, we're getting to that.
Well, you should go in chronological order. Never mind.
Lincoln? Okay.
Almost $70 billion. $5 billion would be an equivalent,
Oh, no, that's not the national debt. Now it's in the T's.
Yeah. That's still a lot of money.
So in 2010, Apple released the first.
Go ahead, you can keep reading the notes, I'll see.
The first generation iPad.
Eileen?
In 1783, Washington Irving was born, a short story writer.
You guys didn't lock the door, did you?
No, sir.
So, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. 1823, William M. Tweed, Boss Tweed, American politician. He died in 1878. That's closer to the beginning of the party wars. 1922, Doris Day. Come on in. You have food, you have a pass. Doris Day was born in 1922, passed away in 2019. In 1964, Nigel Farage, English politician, was born. He's created a new party. He could replace the Conservatives.
Excuse me, Eileen, when 7 o'clock comes, you can stay, but you have to sit on the couch.
Oh, what's going on?
Got too many people.
You gotta,
Actually,
Okay.
your therapy begins once you get on the couch.
Holy muckmire.
City life therapy.
That's it.
In the year 33, Jesus of Nazareth passed away. In 1882, of course, we know Jesse James died. And in 1988, Milt Caniff, American cartoonist, passed away. He did Terry and the Pirates and Steve Canyon. And it is Good Friday.
Huh?
So,
Sit next to Cliff.
here you go.
You got Cliff's book of the week.
All right. Did you make any progress?
First page. Mindset, the new psychology of success. How we can learn to fulfill our potential. So I said, Cliff, do you not think I'm living up to my potential? And he said, not you, Eileen, the schools. Seems intriguing.
so, do we,
And I just want to ask Eileen, where did you get
Heavenly Donuts.
these
was the-
gigantic, like this thing's huge.
Yeah, it's a chocolate frosted coffee roll.
It'll be gone. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
Usually
Anthony,
around MCAS week. They're good.
Anthony Lee,
Yes, sir.
Anthony Lee.
you're running for,
Dana
Belvedere.
Howard's seat, right? Or the state rep position that she occupied.
Yeah, to simplify it, it's the 17th Middlesex District. Just to be clear, I'm not running for anybody's seat. I'm running for the position.
So are you running as a Democrat or
Yes, sir,
Republican?
as a Democrat.
Uh-huh.
Is that the hairy eyeball, sir?
Yeah.
No, that's the only party that can win. Republicans don't have a chance.
Cliff is proudly a member of the Republican Party.
Cliff has a beautiful horse, a magnificent uniform, and a perfectly bladed silver
A
sword.
gun and a hat.
That's why I'm glad
And a
you
belt.
invited me on the show. When we talk about different parties, if you don't mind me interjecting, Cliff, is that when we talk about Republicans and Democrats, we need to have the common conversation and find some common ground. The divide is gone off the charts, and in the meantime, we're not accomplishing the things that we need to. I hear voices on both sides, and I'm going to say I hear a lot of make sense conversation, and I think it's time to see what policies will complement that rather than saying you're wrong and he's wrong, my side's better. Actually, Jose and I talked about it last night. It's the tribalism, and I think if we can move past that and get to the real crux of the community, yes, there's national things going on, and I do stay very observant to it, and I stay very attentive to it. But I want to see what affects Lowell and Tewksbury. That's why I'm here, to have those conversations. So as far as what party I am, that's just something I have to affiliate to. But hopefully, by the end of the show, you'll know exactly what I stand for.
So you live in Belvedere,
I do, yes, sir, on Wentworth.
okay? Ah,
Wentworth. That's where my son's father lives.
oh,
Yeah.
you've got those two speed humps.
Isn't that your husband?
We do. We do. And it does not,
Okay.
it does deter traffic on that side, but
Technically.
you know what's interesting? I'm glad you brought that up. So I spent my first Halloween here. So in Christian Hill, my girlfriend and I, who have been together almost 19 years this April,
Wow.
and
You're legally married now.
yeah, well, no,
I'm Mexican, you're married after 5 years.
yes. And spiritually, I'll tell you what, God bless her, because she tolerates me and I love her for that. But we were keeping Halloween alive in Christian Hill. So when we came out there and we moved out there in June in Belvedere, everyone kept telling us, everyone we met, are you ready for Halloween? And we're like, of course we are. We do it right. Little did we know, even as windy as it was, there had to be over about 1,000 children there. And the concern I have, since you brought up speed bumps, is they're still doing about 50 miles an hour after they hit that stop sign coming from 133. And it's quite concerning. And that's one of the concerns that I have is even with the speed bumps being further down going towards Roger Street, it is not a deterrent on my side of the street.
Right.
At
And
all.
it's worn down over time. That's the thing. They're not as effective. I mean, I'm on Beacon in Christian Hill, and
Yep.
there's 3 speed bumps as you come down from the sidewalk on Methuen Street, from Methuen Street side, and they've all worn down. It's like nothing now.
Yeah.
Why don't we
but-
have electronic ticketing in Massachusetts?
Too expensive. We don't want to
The
spend money on
state legislature doesn't have the courage.
that. Well, that's why Anthony's here.
And I would like to say, I love the enthusiasm for the people that are getting involved, and they're trying to do whatever they can to deter that traffic. So I'm not going to say that it isn't working entirely. I just love that there's a step that's been taken to try to curb that pedal from going down a little bit further than it usually does.
Okay, so you're on Wentworth, right? Before they put in the permanent one there,
Yep.
weren't they like spikes there? It almost, at one point, there were like reflective spikes, you know, when you rent a car and you're leaving and the spikes are up, and if you don't like legally rent it, it'll destroy your tire. But do you remember a point that those spikes were there? I was afraid to go over.
No, I don't recall. The only one that I saw prior to the ones on Wentworth was on Fairmount, and they were the more rubber ones. They looked like they were, you could take them out. As far as the spikes, I'm not familiar with that, to be honest with you. It's not ringing a bell.
I don't like those rubber ones. They're almost too high.
They can be.
Like
No,
those
it
you
really happened.
Those
I
you
asked
really
Cory
got to
Belanger.
slow down for. Not you're
agree.
feeling those.
Oh, you do.
Even at 10 miles an hour, you feel those. Those are.
So no, I did ask about it at one of the meetings we had, because Cory Belanger was a city councilor then, and he said that those were the asphalt ones before, or non-asphalt ones, I forget which word he used to describe it, but they were in there before the permanent speed bump.
Do you have your phone on you? I wonder if you can Google an image on that so it can kind of jog my memory, because I'm not recalling what the spiked ones look like.
So, you're born in Lowell?
Negative. I was born in Boston.
And escaped.
I actually was born in Boston. Most of my time was in Somerville. And then my first stint in the Marine Corps led me away. And I came back to visit family in Lowell. And I'm going to be honest with you.
So
I had been.
you an East Coast or a West Coast Marine?
I was, I went to Paris Island in the East Coast, proudly. And I was in West Coast. I was stationed in 29 Palms, the Mojave Desert.
Ah,
Yes, sir.
29 Palms.
Or referred to as the Stumps.
I've been to 29 Palms. We had I was in high school in California. We had a California cadet corps in the high school.
Okay.
And we did a summer camp at 29 Palms.
If you don't mind, I'd love to tell you an interesting story. So when I was in infantry school, I had come on with 2 guys I've never met before. And what's interesting about that is we had to stay at the Holiday Inn in Somerville, which, let's just say I didn't stay in the hotel the whole time. I had friends that wanted to say a proper goodbye. And we went to boot camp together. We were in the same platoon together. And then we went to School of Infantry together. And then we were getting our orders, and I was in 03 infantry. And I thought I'd be a rifleman going to Hawaii with the other 2 gentlemen who I never met before, but we were shipped out together. And then right then and there, after we're on a long hike with the 50 cal receiver, which is a quite heavy piece of equipment.
Yeah,
And
my son had that opportunity in the Blue and Gray National Guard.
it's I love everything I do, but it is quite heavy. But when you're younger, you kind of can walk that off. And it was right then and there when we were getting our orders, they said, you 2 are going to Hawaii, and you, sir, you're going to California. I'm like, well, that's not that bad. And like, all the instructors were laughing because there's a difference of California. They have Camp Pendleton, which is our beloved base, and I wish I was there. And then you had 29 Palms, and I heard the word palm in there, and I said, this is great, I'm going to California. And then when we left LAX on a 3-hour drive, and it's nothing but desert, and I'm like, what did I get myself into? And even funnier part of that story, when I came back to Lowell to visit, one of the gentlemen who I thought I'd never see again was driving a fire truck, and he's on Lowell Fire. And he's one heck of a lieutenant, phenomenal firefighter, and it's funny because for a man I never met before, he's been in my life for a very long time. So it's funny how Lowell has always been part of my life, and I'm not leaving anytime soon.
That
And
old
you are a
connection.
firefighter.
Yes, sir, I am.
Gee, how does that work? Are you permanently assigned to one station, or do you rotate?
No, I am permanently assigned to one station, so I take pride in the fact that I do what's called community education. We go to all the different businesses because we've expanded the program, and all the schools, public, private, and charter. And we go over hazard mitigation, opioids, which I hope we can touch on today with the program that we created, and all basically fire safety.
So, Anthony, aren't you the president of the union?
I am also the president of Local 853 proudly. I am very, very honored to serve with the best brothers and sisters you could ever ask for.
I have a son who's a different son, was a firefighter,
Okay.
volunteer firefighter, and then took the test and got promoted. And he started out as an EMT and then moved into firefighting.
Okay. Best job in the world. Anybody out there, take the test, get good grades, pay attention, and take that test. Best job you'll ever have.
Okay, so you're a Democrat.
Yes, sir.
Remember last Saturday we had the No Kings rally?
I was aware that that was going on.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And I thought it was funny that the Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, was nattering on about that. Well, she is supporting the Troika here in Massachusetts.
The who?
The Troika.
Oh, okay, let's go around the room. Eileen, what's the troika?
It's gonna be on my Cliff vocabulary list next week.
Jose, what's the troika?
No idea, sir.
All righty. Anthony,
I'm nodding, but I have no idea. I'm just following along.
I got you. So
John-
Cliff, would you explain to the audience
John,
what the troika is?
Don't you pay attention to the show? This
Yes,
is
I
not
produce
the
it.
first use of that word.
I produced the show. What's troika? Remind the audience.
No, you don't produce the show.
Yes,
you
I do.
kibitz.
I'm the producer.
It's a
Selectively kibitz.
it's a Russian term, and it is three people together leading the country.
Oh yeah, I knew that.
Okay.
Troika. It's like try by Troy.
So we've got
Something like
Thank
that.
you, Vladimir. Please
got
continue, Vlad. I'm going to change your first name to Vlad. Would you like to have Vlad instead of Cliff for today?
no.
It being Good Friday.
Vlad is not part of the troika. But we've got Maura Healey, and then we've got the Senate President Nisoka, and then we've got the Speaker of the House, Mariano. And those three people run Massachusetts, and I don't think that the legislators themselves, the individual legislators, get much say.
Did you see Teddy Panos's Inside Lowell earlier this
You got to
week?
drag that mic closer to you, kid.
He wants to have a No King's Day, but he wants Maura Healey, Karen Spilka, Andrea Campbell, and Ron Mariano. He wants to say there are no kings, no queens.
Well, at the end of the day, you know, we kind of tongue in cheek, and it's funny, but what would be wrong about having a rally or a protest? I mean, 72% of the people voted for the audit. So at the end of the day, would it be that, you know, awe-inspiring to have a little gathering at City Hall in multiple places to
He's-
really put pressure on the legislator?
He's willing to sponsor it. He just wants somebody to put it together. Maybe Cliff?
I was gonna give him a call. I ended up being busy and be like, "Hey, let's go. Let's make it
I
happen."
don't know anybody in this town. So,
Only in your little.
but you
neck
have
of
an
the woods.
opinion on this conflict between the state auditor and the troika.
I have quite a few opinions on quite a few things. Specifically, I look at it this way. Let's go back to your earlier point about the No Kings rally. I serve my country proudly, and that's to preserve the right to have your voice heard. And as long as it's done peacefully, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I think that everyone has a right to voice their concerns. I think that the best way to have that make sense, though, is to be educated, is to have a good conversation. Is what is it that you're fighting for? What are you looking to accomplish? What do you think is something that we need to prioritize in that rally? And then to move on, as far as the audit, listen, I'm going to tell you this, and I've said it on Teddy's show, and I've been saying this for a long time. I say it as the union president in any position I find myself in. It's the will of the people. I could sit up here and give you 50 ways to Sunday of why I think there should be an audit. I think transparency is key. I think we should have conversations continuously on, again, preserving the people's right to know where their money is going. But at the end of the day, I can get off my soapbox and turn around and talk to every single person, and the will of the people is the only thing I should be advocating for. And if 72% of them want something, then it behooves me to make sure that I can deliver, regardless of what my opinion is. I mean, I can weigh in on it. I can see if there's different policies that are going to benefit the community. But when you have an overwhelming majority asking for something, and I'm not doing the north and south with my head saying, yes, you know what, we're going to move forward with that, then I think I'm doing a disservice to the people that
So
put me.
you're looking for a forensic audit? A forensic audit is an audit where we're looking to arrest people when it's concluded. We're looking for crime.
Yes, and rightfully so. I mean, when we say looking for crime, I'm going to say nothing more than even when you do your regular taxes, if you're not forthcoming, that investigation is going to lead to a conversation, and that conversation can lead to punitive action. Am I saying that anybody is absolved of that punitive action? I'm not there to decide that. I am not a court of law, and nor will I go ahead and weigh in on that because I don't have the facts of the case. I don't know what that information looks like, but what I can do is be a proponent of making sure checks and balances exist, especially when an overwhelming majority is going to their state legislators and saying, this is what we want. So in return, that's what I'm going to deliver. And it's as simple as I can make that conversation.
Hey, I got two comments from the audience.
Please.
This is a feisty Good Friday. I like it.
Feisty good.
And the last one, good morning with Mr. Leite being on the Democratic on the panel. Does he support the audit? And you're speaking to that now. Thank you.
Yes, and you know what? And not to mention, yes, it is a feisty Friday because you have really good taste on your guests. So I would like to say thank you for having me here. But as far as, yes, of course, I'm not just for the audit. I'm for what people are talking about. Because, again, I said this again on Teddy's show. I'm going to keep referring to that. And forgive me for the redundancy. When we talk about what you're there for, you are the conduit in which information flows. And when you have a continuous message that you're receiving and then you do a complete about face when it comes time to voting, then I think you should be held accountable. I think it's a very simple concept. When I am in a contractual agreement and we're negotiating for a better contract, or we're having whatever we have to do to protect the rights and the safety concerns and the environment in which we work in as a Lowell Fire Department, then yes, I'm going to do my due diligence to make sure that the people are represented. Because when they pay their dues, it's a retainer fee for services, and they should be getting something back for the money they spend. And I feel the same way about taxes. If you're paying your dues, your voice should be represented, and if it's an overwhelming, again, majority of wanting something that's going to make them feel more comfortable where their money is going, then of course I'm a proponent of that. I'd be foolish not to.
Well, Anthony, hanging out in southern New Hampshire, the prosperity in Salem, New Hampshire, Merrimack, New Hampshire is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Would you consider repealing the sales tax 10 miles from the border? So if your store is 10 miles from the border, there's no sales tax. Would you consider a law like that?
There's a lot of components to that for me to just simply say yes or no. And what I'm going to say is that we have a lot of social services. Massachusetts prides itself on being able to help those that are not as fortunate. So when we talk about having any kind of cuts, that conversation has to really be a serious one. And
Well, if you're going to go down that avenue, why is there no investigation? You don't have enough investigators for fraud when it comes to the welfare department in Massachusetts.
And I think this is what I'm going to say. What we started with was the audit, and I'm not going to die on that hill. Like I said, if it's the will of the people, then it's the will of that seat. That's a first good step, because then if there is something that's worth talking about after the fact, then the search shouldn't stop there. And so before I put the cart before the horse and start saying, there's malfeasance. There should be more investigations. We don't need to spend and waste more time and money on conversation unless we have a starting point where we have a little bit more evidence that leads us down the road of further investigations. And I think by having a little bit of accountability, then yes, then that continues. Again,
The audit gets the ball rolling. And
that's my
everything
point.
else.
Yes, 100%. Thank you, Jose.
Well, the reason I roll out this sales tax idea is the property values in Dracut would skyrocket.
Mhm.
Would have Target, Zayres, whatever store you can think of would be in Dracut. You'd have all those restaurants in Dracut that are now in Salem. And just a lot more prosperity for Dracut if for something like that we got considered, and I'm gonna guess along the whole state, Vermont line. It's just something that should be seriously considered, but I'll take that off the table today. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Well, I will say this. As far as, let's talk about sales tax. I heard a very interesting proposition that, well, the government shut down, they should call it a tax holiday for that duration of time. And I think when we have different conversations, I'm not saying I'm proponent or against it, I'm saying this is really thoughtful conversation. I think if we can look at what are the advantages of having the tax rate we have it at, what would we lose if we were to propose a tax cut? And I think we should segue right into it. And Cliff, I don't want to take away from what you have on your agenda.
Please do.
But when we talk about tax money, I'm going to tell you just what we've been doing. When we talk about opioids or people that have no home, yesterday I had a very interesting conversation. I was working and I came across a dear friend of mine who's also on the department, and he's also on the co-op team. And he knows I am a advocate for a lot of different things opioid related. Before I get into that, I want to go ahead and say that he brought me upstairs to Thrive, what is a nonprofit, and let me tell you, I had my socks blown off of what they offer. And go ahead.
That's the nonprofit for recidivism,
That's correct.
right? And so once you're out of jail, it helps you integrate back into society.
That's
I've
correct.
heard amazing things about Thrive.
And not only did you hear amazing things, I heard it firsthand from the people that are doing the wonderful work they're doing. And the conversation turned into how can we combine forces? So the average age of opioid use is 14 years old. They're starting with pills and they graduate to much, much worse. So with the COPE program, the Community Opioid Prevention Education, I said this before and I'm going to say it again. This was something brought to school committee. This was something that was brought to city council, and it was unanimously decided. Also, the great fire chief we had at the time, Chief Winward, and also at the time the superintendent of schools. And what we're trying to do is mitigate these young individuals from going down that road. But once they make that conscious decision, the stigma of just labeling them as, hey, they're hurt, they're help. I've said this before. They get shooed away off the stoop. They're put in a category of junkie, and that's not helping them. And then they go to detox for about
Spin dries.
5 days, and then they go to rehab for 30 days. And then when you don't have a home to come back to, and you don't have those support mechanisms, and let's be honest, the majority of them have underlying mental illness. There's not enough dual diagnosis out there. And now you have a person that has no place to return to call home, no job to make sure that they can sustain themselves, and Thrive is out there trying to get it done. And I want to combine forces with them because, unfortunately, I know this, Jose knows this, I've had family members affected by that. And the hardest thing to keep people on the straight and narrow is having them get sober and then not know what to do, not know where to go, and not know where to turn to with continuous counseling. And I mean continuous counseling. This is not a 30-day, 40-day, 60-day thing.
But that's how nonprofits, they make the money and they keep repeat, and there's no continuum of care.
Not every organization, and I can say this and speak somewhat intelligently on it, there are a lot of different, I mean, I've spoke about Megan's House before, and I think they have one of the best templates out there, but they also have empty beds. And I've said this on Teddy's show. Explain to me why we have an overwhelming amount of people that are struggling with opioids and we have empty beds. Or Thrive is out there doing the work. So again, to go back to that earlier point, we start cutting taxes, and that's fine. I get it. Listen, I'm all about less money that we have to put out and put more back in our pocket and take care of our families. But we have to also make sure that we don't start to subtract these social services because the opioid problem is not getting any better.
I got 3 comments from the audience.
Please.
One's from your fan club. I know Mr. Leite from around the city for years. It's clear how much he cares about Lowell. He's always giving back. I'm really excited to see what he'll accomplish for us as a state rep. He's exactly the kind of leader our community needs.
I appreciate that, whoever that is. Thank you very much.
Moving on to the next one. When government gets involved with housing, we end up with the Bishop Markham rundown facilities that require endless funding. Government should not be in the business of housing. And the last text in this group is, how about the boys and girls sports? Probably not a big deal with kids 12 and under, but what about that? Should there be a cutoff?
We actually had this conversation.
We did.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so in the city of Lowell, there's an elite baseball team that seems to be mostly full of a lot of kids with some seriously great talent, but they seem to be all related or somehow, if you're not in the line of certain people in the city, then you're not going to be on the team, and they're not going to really work with you because you're not part of that clique. So I was telling Anthony at the 200-year, the bicentennial event, which was amazing last Thursday, that I paid an extraordinary amount of money for my child to play elite baseball in Peabody, and it's an organization that I believe they make the kid feel good no matter what level they are. And I think we need more of that coaching in the city and type of organization that you are elite no matter what, because that's what our kids don't have. They don't have the confidence. They don't feel special. We need to build a complex like that and bring out their strengths and help build on their weaknesses at the same time. And they need to feel like every child is worth time, because in the city you tend to get, you're on the team or you're off the team. And I know Lowell's been like that forever, but it's getting to a point that we really need, and I'm not saying everyone gets a trophy either. I'm saying we need to build upon what skill level they're at, provide coaching, and nurture, and build a team camaraderie and help show teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work.
And you used it.
Backing the bus up a little bit for Eileen.
Yes.
Explain this.
I have not seen that in the city streets.
I saw it on Wentworth Ave, and I know.
So just to let you know, those are meant to, if you go backwards, say you're in a secure facility, we've had those on base, or in a bank, you don't see those anymore like you used to. If you go backwards, it pops your tires. It's meant for you just to go forward, and I have not seen those in our city streets, to be honest.
I only see them at rent-a-car agencies.
Yeah.
At the airport. That's no place
Yeah,
else.
secure areas, 100%. So just so you don't go backwards. So, I mean, I'm not doubting that. I've just never seen that in the city streets. But really, to your point, you chose the word coaching because coaching is obviously synonymous with playing sports. It's more like mentoring. And these young individuals, I mean, let's be honest, what made me gravitate to military service and then further it with community service is that team mentality, is having the confidence instilled with you with adults that take that seriously and invest and commit their time to the young individuals to let them know, listen, you're not alone. We're going to teach you the team mentality. There's a bigger picture out there than just the me show. It's the us show. Mm-hmm. And I think there's so many valuable lessons that I encourage it, more so than anything else at that level. I think that we should be encouraging sports more and more and more, because when you have young individuals that are trying to find themselves and they realize they're gravitating more to the team mentality, or even wrestling. You're on a team, but individually you're on that mat. But the camaraderie that you have, the work ethic that's instilled, you can't duplicate that with anything else. So I am a huge proponent of having as many of the youth as possible in our sports.
Yeah, and it's something we really need to get back to, and away from the video games and the phones and
Yes.
everything, because there is life beyond this machine, and I think we're all guilty of it at times.
Absolutely.
Yes, but we had the luxury of having life before it. So we had the street lights coming on as our alarm clock, and being out and playing and building forts and being on the bike. But I was also fortunate enough to have that great piece of technology later on in life when I needed it most. So I have contrast. The younger individuals don't have that contrast. I know 2-year-olds that can unlock a phone, and it's quite interesting.
I hand it to my 13-year-old when I don't know what to do about it. You know, like they're so advanced, and that's another one of their strengths to relate to, and they have so many great skills technology-wise.
I agree.
But they're lacking in that social camaraderie type of, let's work together as a team. My son was on a team in Belvedere, and Harry Shea was the coach. He was like the most incredible coach. As he went on in Lowell baseball, he didn't have such great coaches, but the experience that he gave those kids, and like to watch them go from like the lowest team rankings to like they won the championship.
And again, an honorable mention to all the individuals, friends of mine, neighbors, family that have taken the time to commit to these young individuals and making sure that they can get what's needed, and that's the mentorship, the coaching as we refer to, and just that team mentality. So thank you to everybody in the community that works very hard and somehow fits it in their busy schedule.
You
You're
can
welcome.
almost see the difference between a child that
Some people in the audience think it's a great idea. Spike strips, it would definitely be wrong way driving.
I need somebody to corroborate my story. Those, they were, I don't know if it was one weekend, one day, I went to go pick up my son. I was actually afraid to drive over those.
And this was on what you said? No, in Belvedere.
Yeah, because I was talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because in Centerville, we just had the speed humps. They had those in Belvedere, and I was saying, why don't we have those everywhere? Because it would really make somebody think and slow down.
I could tell you other consequences that we could discuss as well, where I don't think entirely it's a great idea, but I will say that it would be a deterrent. However, have you ever been on any road and had to back up?
Always.
Well, then those aren't a good idea.
Right. And I don't know if it was a mistake. I don't know what the story is, but for a period of time it was there. John, I sent you a messenger. I wanted Anthony to. Yeah. He had a motion this past week. Yeah, if you don't mind. In regards to, right here. The superintendent have the proper departments provide a report on the district's current efforts on educating students on the efficacy
Yep.
of marijuana. Oh, I
Let me
can't.
blow that up.
Yeah, thank you.
I get my
Being
glasses
sold
on.
in dispensaries, how it affects them, the behavioral
No,
impacts.
thank you.
And again, I'm sorry for and how it can become addictive. So I don't want to step on Cliff's toes. I know you have an agenda, Cliff, so I'd like to turn it back to you, but I would like to touch on that and what our program does at some point. So if we can come back to that, I'd love to. So Cliff, what do you have else question-wise?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go in a totally different direction.
Please.
My grandson went down to St. Joseph, the worker shrine, to get shriven. And when he got out, he had a parking ticket, which he paid online.
Can we, he went to go shriven,
Get shriven,
and that means blessed at a mass?
confession.
What was that?
Confession,
Catholic for 75 years.
More Cliffism.
What's that word?
Shiven.
confession,
No, he said
No, the
shiven.
word you used.
shriven.
Shriven.
Shriven. Never heard that. Is that like another Russian word, Vladimir?
No,
Never heard the word before.
Shriven. I had to
Amazing.
just get past that before he went on with the story about a ticket.
so, yesterday, he got an email dunning him for not having paid the ticket, claimed to be from the Superior Court, and told him he has until 9 o'clock
Was it a text?
tomorrow morning, yes.
Where did they get his where did they get his cell phone number?
I got one, but it's a scam.
Yeah, they were all scams. But listening to Cliff,
No, it's only a scam when you text me.
no, it's if you're getting a text that the cops are after you when you're getting a text on it, first of all, consider the day of the week. It's usually a weekend or a holiday. And how did they get your cell phone number? and then look at the sending cell phone number, and it's usually out of the country. Check the area code. The government does not send text.
No.
I got this cool video from Eric Gitchier. Speaking of the trash in Lowell, he's bellyaching about the trash, rightfully so. This is public housing trash. And this is, if you put this in front of your house, they wouldn't pick up your trash. If it's overflowing that much.
Oh, wait, we don't see it on the screen, John.
Oh, sorry.
I heard him talking about it, and it's happening a great deal at the
I
Lowell
gotta change
Housing Authority.
parameters over here. Let me start at 17 seconds long, but it's pretty cute. If that was your trash can, they would not pick it up. And notice
And you'd get ticketed.
they had to take away the recycles because they were putting regular trash in the recycles. So Lowell Housing doesn't recycle anymore. They just have trash, which I don't think they pay a red cent for. I think we pick it up for free.
I think the big deal was we had somebody that represents the housing authority earlier in the day go on there and say that it's not true, that they keep everything tidy, and that,
Well,
there's
where's
no...
the recycles?
Yeah.
Where's the
And-
recycles?
And like you said, if I was to, when we had trash barrels like that, my barrel was open, they wouldn't even take it.
That's right.
Yet alone overflowing like that.
So back to snarling or whatever Cliff wants to call going to confession. these
Shriven.
days.
I'm all set with that phone call. I'm all set. Thank you.
Back to you, Cliff.
So,
Oh, Melanie's gonna be here at 7 too.
yeah,
Oh.
so,
Hey, Cory.
And I'm also all set with that phone call, gentlemen, so I can continue if that's okay.
okay.
Cory Belanger or Cory Robinson?
Robinson.
Okay.
So if you get a text like that, be careful about responding. Because this is a scam trying to get money from you.
So now that you brought up getting a ticket, my old boss's son came down last week. My treasurer, which has never really come down to Lowell. We went over there to the Mandarin in downtown Lowell. We had a great time, spent way too much money,
Tell the
had way
audience
too
where
many
the
beers.
Mandarin
Is that the one
Oh.
on Market Street?
Yeah, right on Market Street in the corner. The food was delicious. Not a plug, but boy, let me tell you, that was some good food. We come out after being in there for 4 hours. He has a ticket. He had paid his meter till 8 o'clock. He shouldn't have a ticket. $300 ticket. Kid pulls out. There's no handicap spot. It's marked as a parking spot. And if you look way up, about 7 feet up on the pole, it says handicap drop off. You got a $300 ticket. But it's not, as far as I was concerned, every handicap spot needs to be marked on the ground.
Right, on the ground, and there should be a sign, honestly, I feel like, for people who are not visually
Eileen,
gifted.
comment from the audience directed to you. Wentworth has never had spike strips on it. I travel on it every day.
Who's that?
Who's that? Where do they live? I'm showing up to your house.
Bart.
Bart's a liar?
Bart is, I thought we already talked about this.
Oh, Bart's my neighbor.
Bart is a programmed AI that Cliff generates to
Eileen,
come.
can I say I love your enthusiasm, but I think your argument is disintegrating before our eyes. You know what I have? I have homework today. I am going to do my everything to find out if they had them, where were they, and then we can continue
Call
that.
Cory Belanger.
I'm going to call more than that.
Okay.
Okay, back to housing. So
Housing.
we had the comment about government should stay out of housing. When I look at the homeless issue at large, part of that is it's so expensive.
So expensive.
I mean, I've heard $1,700-$1,800 for an apartment in Lowell. That's a lot of money.
It's cheap nowadays if you can get
I was just going to say Lowell is still very competitive in the market with even just surrounding areas, or even if I was to ever go back to my old neighborhood, which there's no plan to, but I couldn't get into Somerville if I tried with three of us, all of us sharing an apartment. So, and we also have to look at it too, Cliff, is my concern is not only the people that don't have homes, but look at our veterans that are coming home. And
Well, it's a little bit of a state issue, too.
I agree.
The Section 8 voucher is a premium piece of money. And if I'm renting this room out to you guys, and Section 8 voucher is gonna pay me $2,000 for this room, And so, and then all of a sudden, you know, I think I'll rent this out. I'm not gonna rent it for less than $2,000, because I can get $2,000 from the state.
Right, and that's all or nothing. You basically can't work, you can't do anything, but you can live for free. It's an all or nothing
Well, the
state.
guidelines for that too, I can have visitors. I can be a welfarean, get my check, get all this good stuff, but I can have all you people as visitors in my house.
I had that conversation with a
Perpetually.
few people when they were like, oh, you know, sign the rent stabilization, rent control, and it's like, oh, we can't do anything about it. It's like, but the state can. Because like John mentioned, why would my landlord, for example, rent my 3-bedroom apartment for $1,700, $1,800, when she knows that she can get, and I'm not targeting her, she's great, I love her, she's awesome. She can get Section 8, you know, the state to pay every month, guaranteed on the dollar, right there on the first, pay her $2,200 for that apartment. So why would she want to rent to a struggling construction worker, you know, somebody on the come up, a family, when she knows, and like Eileen mentioned, the problem is that now we're putting people on that hamster wheel where if you make a little bit, you make $100 more than that line,
You're out.
that's it. You get no assistance. You get nothing. So you're literally one cough away from not being able to put food on the table or
There's
be
no-
able to pay the rent.
There's no
at the
bridge,
same time.
it's a cliff.
Yeah, no, it really is. Like either A, you are literally keeping yourself down here so you can live a good, a decent life, or you're working your butt off to
My
struggle.
gripe about this subsidized housing is, they can have as many visitors as they want.
As
And when
much
you-
trash
and
as they
when you
want.
talk to a state rep about this issue, they say, do you want them to be lonely? That's what their response is. Do you want them to be lonely?
Well, if I may, let's talk about a couple things right off the bat. When we talk about rent control, if not done correctly, it's a slippery slope, and I'll tell you even just what's happening in New York. You have to hold landlords accountable. And what happens is on rent control, you're going to have them wanting to spend less money in their investment because it's not as lucrative. And as we're seeing with a lot of these landlords, property owners, they will sell that property because, again, the restriction of not being able to at least get to the market or even slightly above it to rent it out, they're now restricted, and now they're saying if their idea is to have as little overhead as possible and to pull out as much revenue as possible. And when there's rent control, we see a lot of dilapidated buildings, unfair living. What I'm proposing is that why don't we start incentivizing our trade work again? Why don't we have more people that if they're on assistance, and our family was on assistance as well, I'm the middle of 6 children, and I will say that college, as I said on Teddy's show, college was pushed continuously, and I think that's a good thing. But because I did trade work, I went to a trade school. In Somerville, we had both the school, high school and trade school was one. And I learned to trade carpentry. And no matter what my life has brought me, I've been able always to fall back on my hands and know how to work with them. That team mentality, that building good personality traits and work ethic, that also comes from having people more capable. So if we have dire straits and there's social programming that can help them get out of that, and I am a proponent of that wholeheartedly, what we should also look is there a transition out of that? Is there a way that we can incentivize having more trade works? Now, I heard the great mayor, Eric Gitchier, have conversation recently about the lottery that's going on, celebrating mediocrity rather than meritocracy. And if we want to uplift people and make them feel like there's hope, and it is worth them taking that next step, because it's scary. I'm going to be honest with you. When you're on assistance, there's uncertainties that are now made certain. And then the fix-all is people saying, why are they on it? Let's get them off of it. And to what?
Yeah, and it becomes generational.
We have to educate, we have to train, we have to incentivize, and we also have to keep these people here. If they're going to school, and please forgive me for kicking a dead horse, but I'm really good at it. If we're going to have students here from kindergarten to high school, let's encourage them to go to Middlesex and UMass. Let's incentivize businesses around here, both small and large, to have a certain amount of interviews per year that they're going to give to these institutions.
Pre-K to masters, right? That's what we push.
I got a bunch of
That's it.
texts, time is short, so great idea. It says, another question for Mr. Leite. Who taught him personal finance? Continuing with the text,
Life.
Here's one for you. My insurance company sent me an email reminding me to get a sticker. Next one, respectfully, everyone told me 30 years ago that I was paying too much for my house and housing was more expensive. More inventory will bring prices down of homes. That's and then continuing to the panel, what would you say is the price of home? What would you say the price of a home should be? And the last text, after paying for 30 years, you bet I'm going to get as much as possible what I sell.
Well, I can tell you, I lived in Christian Hill renting for 21 years. And I worked very hard in saving my money and being very frugal and having the discipline to forgo things I wanted and had to stay with things I needed. And it allowed me, again, I'm not new to the neighborhood. I've been at the same firehouse almost 9 years. And what's interesting
Which
about that,
firehouse is yours?
right the Oakland Station across from Shed Park, the training
Okay.
center. And what it allowed myself and my beautiful
Is there a
girlfriend.
truck in that building?
There's a what now?
Is there a truck in that building?
No, there is not. Negative.
didn't
It's
think so.
training, EMS, and fire safety. But what it allowed myself to do with my beautiful 14-year-old Yorkie Jack, he's about 15 in a couple months, and my beautiful girlfriend, we would not walk the neighborhood. I got to talk to the neighborhoods because I work in that neighborhood. And that's when we came across a house that needed some work. And I'm real good at looking at something and saying, I see there's improvements here, and then I go in and I make those improvements. But what allowed me to do that was work very hard for a long, long time and rent until I was financially capable to make that decision. Because we all saw they were giving loans away not that long ago, and then foreclosures came very, very shortly after
2008.
that. And that's what we have to be careful of. So in school, tell me why we're not talking about more budgeting and financing. More about the interview process. How many students know how to properly interview?
Well, somebody was here, they were talking about this on Wednesday's show, and somebody said that kids need to realize that you can have delayed gratification. Everything is immediate gratification
Sure.
lately, but even saving money is a delayed gratification, and being able to wait and understand like that you don't have to have it now. And I think that's a piece of personal finance, is teaching that not to be impulsive.
The word that you said right there that we should emphasize is teach. So when I re-enlisted in the Marine Corps in 2010, and all these young Marines, I'm now 32, in a young man's game, young person's game. And when we had some downtime, I'd have conversations saying, hey, who has credit cards? Who has a car loan? What is your APR? It was like I was talking another language. We're not teaching them that, especially with the military, a lot of them will go right outside the base and buy a car from a buy here, pay here place. At a 28%, 21%, credit cards are exceeding past 20-something% APR. And they don't realize that when they would go on these drillings for training, they would go out and get the
60
tobacco and the drinks and everything else, and they would use their card. And they're paying quadruple amount if they paid cash. So that education has to be instilled where how do they set themselves up financially now? If I knew back then what I know now as far as investment, even if at the very lowest, put monies in CDs and let them mature. We're not teaching them. And when you say immediate gratification, it's because we're all addicted to the dopamine fix. We want it now, we have short attention spans, and we have to emphasize budgeting, discipline, and reliance on yourself to make sure you're fiscally responsible.
And we're about to go on break, so I'll touch on that. I think it's gonna start
Now we'll go on a
when.
break.
Oh,
We had 20, we had 50.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to City Life Show. I'm Cliff Krieger, your host. My co-host is out monitoring the door for more guests, but we have Jose Cervantes and we have Anthony
Late.
Late.
Good morning.
I wanted to say, look, I wanted to follow up from the discussion we were having
Hey,
on
Cory, how are
housing.
you?
And I think that
It should be open. Thanks, bye.
we would do well to go back to where we were back in
I got the girl, but not the boy.
Okay, good.
the 40s and 50s.
Morning, how are you?
Close this door, sir?
Perfect, yes, that's good.
Uh,
Did you lock the door, Eileen? Hi.
No, because I figured
Would you
George
still
probably
locked?
come.
We're just gonna sit on the couch.
Okay, I'll sit down. Eileen,
have a seat, have a seat,
Eileen.
What are
Melanie.
you doing?
Eileen,
Do you want me to jump in?
Eileen, the
Melanie.
door's locked.
Sorry, my hands are
That's
going
okay.
away.
Anthony, very nice.
Oh, nice to meet you. Right,
Yes.
you're running for, I always get the numbers mixed up.
17.
17,
Yes.
right on. We're live?
Yeah,
We
sit.
are.
I'll make you coffee or whatever.
I'm in
you
the
wanna
middle
do.
of asking a question.
Cliff, carry on, please.
Yeah. So, back when in New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, they did tract homes. And I think that the state would do well to find a place where they could buy up land and make it available to developers to build basic houses, but the state would have to do things in the infrastructure area. Freeway, railroad, that kind of thing.
I agree.
And that's where we ought to go. And when I say basic house, I'm saying, you know, four designs,
Close that door,
designs,
otherwise you'll bake upstairs.
all the inside of the houses are the same, they're all painted the same.
Sit next to
If you
Cliff.
wanted a different
Cory, sit
color,
next to Cliff. Eileen, do something, just move
do
the
it
chair.
yourself. But
You good?
a basic
I gotta fix the
house,
camera.
mass
No.
produced.
There's enough.
Me and you talked about this yesterday, where I think we both agreed that a lot of the ridiculously high housing prices right now have to do with some of these mandates that we're putting in. You know, again, me and him talked last night. I went to an NCOG meeting. I think I've mentioned it on the show before. A company that does better in housing. I think it was in New Bedford. 25 units, all zero carbon. When we asked the guy, how many units would you have been able to build if you didn't have to follow those strict mandates? He said 40. That's 15 units because of the red tape. You know, according to them, the red tape is.
Slide to the left.
Get nice and comfy.
Or the
over there.
right.
Should be touching the next.
Stand up, sit down, fight, fight,
Is
fight.
everybody fit?
Oh, sorry, Jose.
No. So,
Go ahead.
you
Boy,
know,
I haven't been on a show this big in a while.
Seriously?
Well, it's election season.
but I think that that's one of the big issues that we have right now, where we're pushing these, strict, green energy or whatever it may be, whatever they want to word it today, on building houses, and it's passing down to the consumer. Again, 40 units he could have built for veterans. He was only
Oh,
able to,
where, bring me up to speed, sorry.
so we were talking about the price of housing, and I went to an NCOG meeting, and there was a company, I won't say the name, out of New Bedford, and they were able to get the grants to build 25 units, but they had to be zero carbon.
Oh,
So then,
well, if you want the money, you have to dance to the tune.
but that's the thing, we asked them
We're gonna have to
after, like,
change that at a different level.
if you didn't have to follow such strict mandates, how many units would you have been able to build? And he's like, probably at least 40.
But
That's 15
let's
units.
respond to Melanie's point. But if you want the houses, you have to configure the rules so that it's not very expensive.
Have you addressed the whole stairwell issue in housing?
No, we have not talked about
Yeah, I mean, that's another,
You gotta turn
that's
your
a
mic-
mandate down from the state, that you only have to do one stairwell and anything over 4 stories, is it? I'm sketchy. I didn't cover that story. But you know, when I read that, I was like, that's crazy. One egress? That doesn't sound like a good
That
thing.
is Melanie Gilbert from the Lowell Sun.
From the Lowell Fire Department.
And,
Here's your gift.
this is
I'd like to
Cory
have that
Robinson
stricken from the record,
from
please.
City Council.
She's not low fire.
Okay, guys, let's let the host introduce everybody. Please be
Okay.
quiet.
And of course, we have Eileen, and we have Jose, Cervantes. Boy, I have some questions for you. Never get to them.
Let's see if you can
And
pull it off this time,
Anthony
Cliff.
Luck. What?
Late. Remember this. Late for school, never work.
Oh, I like
Call
that.
me anything you want, just don't call me late for breakfast. Have you heard that one? Yeah.
See,
That's a grandpa thing.
I think that one egress that, again, that's coming out of the state, and it further demonstrates how the state is in a mad dash to create housing. They're removing a lot of safeguards and protections, and then they're coming up with like the carbon and zero emission stuff. What does that do? I'd love to see a cost analysis for a developer, because those stretch codes, although, you know, the intended outcome is great, it's something that we have to work towards, a real goal, but it's compounded right now with commercial development lending rates, which that goes overlooked. I think that's one of the biggest problems with the housing situation in the nation, is the Fed's commercial development lending rates are astronomical. And so if I'm a developer and it's gonna cost me $10 million for a project, am I gonna develop in a gateway city like Lowell or Lawrence, where the demand for housing is off the charts? Or am I gonna go out closer to Boston? Because it's that same project is gonna cost me $10 million either way. But return on investment,
That's right. It's more
your
lucrative.
margin is shrunk when you get into the gateway cities, because if we continue to look at affordable or subsidized housing and not build up the tenants and the people that are living in these homes, it's not sustainable. You're gonna go through the eviction process, you're gonna clog the land courts, because if we don't build up and empower the people that are paying the rents, then they don't have a fighting chance. And I think all of this has to happen simultaneously.
Well, since we have two people running for state rep here today, this needs to get changed.
Are you ready?
What's happening is they're fortifying, the State House is fortifying cities and towns to have no parking, and you make more money on real estate taxes, city and towns, than you do on those parked cars. So throw the excise tax out there. We don't want that anymore. We want a $700,000 condo at 7 levels on every street. So we can just eat, drink, and be merry in town hall. And that's the way this state's going.
Well-
It's squeezing the little guy out of here and take your car with you.
Well, you have a good point, John, because if you look at it this way, ultimately that could potentially let the state off the hook on some of the Chapter 70 money. If there's less road money coming in because less excise tax collected,
That's right.
now it shifts, it cost shifts that load and that burden to the local community as far as, you know, the residential taxes. But they disregard the challenges that come along with density. I pointed out the other day, Lowell Fire Department, we had a fire on Bridge Street. And I mean, you're talking within 15 feet, there's 3 properties to this structure that was on fire, right on Bridge Street near Market Basket.
I wanted to ask about that, the 2 fires.
You gotta get close to
Over
them.
the weekend and
One
the
of them
other
was
one
in Drake
Drake.
So the one in
Close to the
Lowell,
mic, kid.
Do you think solar panels,
Go to the mic.
do you think solar panels have anything to do with that?
no, because I spoke to the people in the scene, and
They were young.
the fire started, but I was in the barber shop halfway through getting a haircut.
And your hair looks nice.
Why, thank you.
All the way down on Third and where?
So right there at the, pretty much where you would turn to go to Broadway Road, I'm halfway getting a cut in the barber shop. By the time I see the apparatus go by, I call the manager, I says, hey, what's going on here? He says, I don't know, let me make a call. 2, 3 pieces go by me, I says, oh, this
They should've
isn't
called you.
gonna come back.
Crime rate
By the
now.
time I got my haircut finished and got to that fire location to see what was going on, they were rolling up the hoses. That goes to show you, luckily our fire department responded promptly, and I mean had that thing extinguished, but density, and now the wind was blowing tremendously that day. If that flame would have caught one of those surrounding structures, you have 3 homes within 15 feet of this location, and I mean, that one would have turned to 4 in a place like Lower Centerville.
You're going to get a real-life example of the restrictive housing things that have been passed, not only at the state level, but at the city council. So acre housing had parking, and that's affordable housing. That listed in, I think, the summer, and within 6 months, all the units were sold. So they were owner-occupied. In contrast, just down the street, Suffolk Place, what is that, 33 or 38 units? No parking.
And if I made it,
I don't know
to
where those
Cory's
people are
point
gonna
too,
sit, where they're gonna park.
number one, he did say luckily, and I love that he pointed out luckily. But let me tell you, strategically, Lowell Fire rises to the occasion time in and time out. In the last
Absolutely.
couple of months, I believe we've had either 5 or 6 fires continuously in one of the worst winters we've had. And that's why we can't thank the city council enough and the city manager keeping houses open, because minutes matter, seconds matter. And when we talk about density, when we have that close proximity within where these houses are located, these are exposures. And if you have a fire in one structure and then you have exposures to the other structures, we're talking about what could be already catastrophic turning into something tenfold. So I want to say a big shout out to who I proudly serve with, is the men and women that just get up every single day, and when that bell tolls, they're on scene and they work very quickly and they mitigate that.
Anthony,
But to
with
the
your,
point-
Anthony, with your fire hat on, what
What's your
starts
response
most
time?
fires?
So we're allowed 6 minutes, and we get there in 3 minutes or less because we are strategically placed, and more importantly, we're open. So I had said this in city council when I spoke, and I do want to make a point to what Cory was saying, but just to kind of reiterate, the reason why, and Eric Gitchia was a huge proponent back when Eileen Delrossi was the manager, we had 6 consecutive fires, and those continued. The first due was browned out, and out of 5, and out of those 5 that were browned out, we had 3 separate fatalities. And it was decided that this can't be something we gamble with. The people that live in this city depend on the services. We don't care what party you belong to. We don't care what you look like, what you subscribe to. We are there day in and day out, and I can proudly say I serve with one of the finest organizations that you could ever be a part of. The men and women, I can go on and on about how I feel about them. So now by staying open, we've had a string of fires, and when I say we, again, the men and women just jump on these trucks and they don't care what it is, they get there and they solve it. We're having them so continuously now that if we had any brownouts and if we weren't properly funded, can you imagine what that would look like? Let's keep this in mind, because everything's petroleum based, it's all plastic. A fire doubles in size every 30 seconds to a minute. That means also when we used to have houses that were more compartmentalized, everything's open concept. These fires are roaring and they're producing hot temperatures and the nastiest smoke because of what the materials are, which I'm going to segue right back into what Cory was saying. It's multifaceted when we talk about housing. 100% it has to do with the regulations and what we have to adhere to, but it's also building costs. The materials are off the charts. Interest rates are off the charts.
Anthony, before we go back over to Cory,
Please.
what do you think starts most fires in the city of Lowell?
Well, that's kind of complex because
There's a
when I teach
one
fire
sentence
safety,
answer. One
well,
sentence.
when I fire, sometimes it's human error because
Okay,
you have to understand
thank
it could
you.
be
Back
electrical.
over to Cory. So Cory,
Yes, sir.
saw an announcement that you were running for state rep on Facebook. I
Yes,
called,
sir.
left you a voicemail.
John, let the host do a little work.
All right, turn it back over to Cliff.
So, we'll start with Anthony, because Anthony was here for the first hour. Give us the quick, I'm running for office.
Okay. I've said this many times before. I'm not chasing the seat. I'm following the concerns that's led me to a potential opportunity to make things happen and make things work. This is not new to me. I'm not proposing policies that I don't already have a hand in. Just with the opioid conversations, I'm already sitting with the families. I'm already seeing the horror stories that they're living. I am a proponent of, again, more dual diagnosis, better treatment, more consistent treatment, dealing with the people that are unhoused, both our citizens and our veterans, and we're not taking that next step to try to make them more prepared to live a better life after they get sober. Also, even more importantly, being a co-director on the Greater Lowell SISM team of peer support, I've been in the streets, I've been in the different departments, I've been with the people for 10 years, and again, this is not new to me. This isn't me just emerging saying, hey, look at me, this is what I'd like to do, this is what I've been doing. Just another thing, department related, we're doing a distractive driving course that we call Crash Course, hasn't been done in 35 years. It's to show them what substances can do and the phone can do when you're driving our new young drivers. It is priority that we make sure that we're continuously educating and training the public. I'm in every business, I'm in all the schools, public, private, and charter, and I'm also out there in other capacities with doing work with the Greater Lowell team. So why am I running? I'm running because I'm already doing the work, and I want to get to the next tier that allows me more resources and capabilities to bring what I feel is necessary to fruition.
So
You know
let's
what?
go to.
Can I just say one thing? I wanted to mention with Fred's motion and what you're talking about with the awareness, I think it needs to start as early as personal finance and literacy in the schools.
Yes.
And our kids need to be aware of the disabilities that they may have and their strengths and weaknesses on that, because when students struggle, that's more of a chance that they would get addicted to any substance, and if they're at home and their parents are doing it, and I just think it needs to start earlier, and we need to have a continuum of care.
Yeah, that generational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not to mention, the real concern too is that they're not old enough to go to dispensaries. So as they're getting this on the street, some of this marijuana's
Self-medicating.
it's laced with fentanyl.
Yeah.
I know a student at the Wing School was just suspended for having a blunt.
Yeah.
So,
Back over to Cliff.
Is that middle
So-
school?
Cory,
Yes, sir.
you're running.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about it.
It feels like it's a natural progression for me. I'm on my 5th year as a counselor. I looked around. I was disappointed to see that Rep. Elliott's stepping down. I think Rep. Elliott has delivered to Pawtucketville, Centerville, North Chelmsford, 16th Middlesex very well. I believe we still have a $50,000 earmark sitting for improvements to Gage Field in my district right now, and we're kind of playing tug of war on the floor on the council chamber to figure out what's the best use for that. I get mixed reviews from the neighborhood, so we're trying to kind of do both if possible. So, but just looking at it for the past 4 years, I've been tasked with pretty much digging out of the unintended consequences that have come down from the state, and the list goes on. ADUs, okay, I see there was a need to try to increase the housing inventory by any means necessary, but there was no real mandates and there was no local board control on that.
Now it's ADUs, no parking.
Yeah, exactly. And shouldn't somebody that's gonna be allowed to be a landlord take some kind of formal landlord training? I
Well,
mean,
can you
developer.
afford a $30,000 cut and pay? Because that's what happens to any state rep that votes against what the president of the council wants.
And I'm well aware of that, but to me, this hasn't been a money issue. If you think for the past four years plus, that $25,000 stipend has been my driving force, then you're sadly mistaken. I'm an outcome guy. I'm a function guy. I really and truly, the gratitude and gratification that I receive is having a constituent reach out with a problem or a challenge and working with them to solve that. I mean, things like splash parks and redos of open public space, those sound small on face value, but when you can find a mechanism to pull your community together and start turning underutilized negative space into gathering places where families will enjoy, and it brings back that sense of community, because the kids are being bussed all over. A lot of the kids living next door to each other don't even know each other.
We
And
have
so-
we have a gigantic problem in Massachusetts. We have the sleeping state police.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time they got a ticket for speeding in Massachusetts, and you roar by one of their cruisers and there's nobody in the car? He's likely in the back seat sleeping.
Or in
We
a
get the
bar.
trains that fall off the track every day. How is it a train falls off the track every day? Department of Transportation, terrible, crazy stuff. Back over to Cliff.
There is a lot of problems, obviously, in state level, but I'm not looking to get mixed up in challenges that have been long existent with, say, MBTA and these kind of things, although it is part of the job. But I think as one of the three coming out of Lowell, we have plenty of challenges we face on a daily basis, just like North Chelmsford, the Ledge Road project that the residents have been dying for assistance with, that Rep. Elliott has been trying to help. And again, density to housing. That's only going to lead to further complications for a gateway city like Lowell. It seems like, as Jose was speaking earlier, we've been grouped with NIMCOG. Now, I would like to know what NIMCOG does, because NIMCOG presents us with plans, but it seems like the think tank gets together, and if you look at who we're grouped with, it's how can Lowell do more, or how can we stuff what we don't want in our communities down the gateway cities. It does not make sense to me, and I think we need to really look, if we're going to talk about collaborative approaches, why wouldn't we be paired up and working with like the Methuens, the Lawrences, the Haverels? They have similar challenges in their community. I was at a gala last night with one of the nonprofits in Lawrence. Amazing work. I mean, and they have their hand involved in housing development, arts with the youth, educational components, everything throughout the city. But the biggest thing is, it's under one roof, so the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. It seems like in our community especially, the left hand never knows what the right hand's doing, and you have duplicate efforts, and all you're doing is throwing money into the fire pit. So, just like when I got on the council, I worked for the city for 15 years, so as an insider looking out, I understood clearly where the breaks in the function in the organization were. By being on the council for the past 4 years now, I think it prepared me to fully understand the implications and unintended consequences of not thoroughly thinking through these legislative bills that go through. And we have to challenge ourselves to do better. Public transportation, that's been something that everybody's been talking about. Why haven't we looked at above ground solutions like I've seen in Geneva, I've seen in many other communities, where you're talking it's electric, fully electric. The infrastructure is minimal to install. And we've had a trolley system. Why not look at expanding a trolley type system throughout the city of Lowell to get people to where they need to go? If you run a successful pilot program, say in Lowell, why can't we reach out to one of our surrounding communities where people work and say, let's extend. When we have state senators and Congress people asking, what are the priorities of the city? That kind of conversation never really comes up. Those are the people that can deliver the real funding with improvements to transportation. When we start looking at unhoused and mental health and substance abuse issues, the governor's already set out a pilot program that she's trying to do out by Boston. How come we don't have a regional approach? How come the gateway cities in the Merrimack Valley don't have a regional center that can handle and facilitate long-term care? Because you know why? It's a lot more money to be generated for the nonprofits that do the Band-Aid work, instead of really giving people a fighting chance to get them back on their feet. We need every step of that chain to be connected. So whether you come in off the street, you get medically and clinically stabilized, at that point, now you can start to clear the fog. You can start to make solid decisions for yourself.
I can walk out anytime I want.
And that's the big problem. But again,
That's gotta get changed before you have this big program, we're gonna keep you in for 6 months. You gotta change that law. You lose your rights.
but it all has to happen together. Because if we have a regional facility that's backed by the state, that gives our courts a real tool in their toolbox to utilize. That gives our co-op teams, that gives the public defenders, that even gives some of the clients and the people that are going through the judicial system an opportunity to say, you know what, I had enough. With real care though. If I say I had enough, I go into a detox, I'm out in 72 hours, guess where I'm going? Back where I was when I got picked up. And the cycle starts over and over again. If you're lucky. And the worst,
Subsidized with federal funds.
not necessarily subsidized, because if you did a regional approach, I think every community should have to pay their fair share to utilize that regional facility that goes 100% earmarked into the upkeep, maintenance, and staffing
I
of
would
this
say
facility.
99% of the addicts get a federal check every single month.
Oh, and there is a lot of, and they get a state check as well. I mean,
Cory, speaking of addiction,
Mhm.
what party are you running under?
I've been a registered Democrat since day one.
So you support the troika down there in
3 people.
Boston,
The what?
the troika, you know, the
Doesn't
governor,
even wanna-
the president of
Oh
the
my
Senate.
It has nothing
And
to do
the-
with, no, I'm not sitting here saying I support individual people. I support an
But
idea.
they run the state.
And I'm talking about an individual
Not the
idea.
legislature.
I'm talking about an individual idea. What is a pilot program that's being proposed, and it's a regional facility to address all of the residents of the Masson Cass and beyond.
But you hit the nail on the head too, is having contributors that decisions fall on the actual host city. You should have every contributor that's around that's sending their people to that regional, and there should be everyone taking a piece of that pie financially to help out.
Well, that model's already there. Look at the vocational school.
That's
And look at
100%.
It's a
all the
regional
nonprofits.
school. If
Well,
you
let's
wanna-
look at the vocational school. We have gone to a lottery because we don't have enough vocational schools.
That makes no sense.
Yeah.
But who also
What-
supported
but
that bill?
why will the legislature not give us 10 more regional schools?
Hey, wait, we would like to get some money from the state to help us with the one high school that we're struggling with before you start looking at funding 10 regional vocational schools.
That's
I
true.
mean, we're digging out of that hole currently, and it's
That's true.
a heavy
But
burden
But
on
the
our taxpayers.
state needs
To step up.
Well, you,
10. I mean, that's an honoristic estimate.
Not just the state stepping up, but here's the issue I have. Look at the conversation we're having. You need to do the will of the people as a state representative. And
Absolutely.
more importantly, the state representatives in that area have to work together, and they also have to take some of their cues from the city council that knows they got their finger on the pulse. So between the hybrid of city council, the constituents that put you there and have expectations, and even more importantly, having all the state reps together, and they have, this is all very simple in conversation, but you have to have them all in lockstep to push legislation forward and then have allies that can help push that through. We all know what the remedies are, and we're saying, why isn't it getting done? And it's a money issue. So at the end of the day, what we need to do is stop having everyone, I said this last night, everyone's playing the same song, but they're not in tune. And if we can get on the same page as far as any state reps, city council, and the constituents that are looking at the problems firsthand in their neighborhoods. So Cory's gonna run for Centerville in that area, in that district, District 16. I'm in 17. There should still be conversations where it's not neighborhood against neighborhood, it's not party against party, it's concerns that we should be able to sit across from each other and say, this is what we're seeing over here, well, we're seeing this over here. How is it affecting our children? How is it affecting our livelihood? How is the infrastructure being impacted? You gotta have these people all in the same room, all again, staying in tune in the same song.
John, I
But
think you
if-
should have just had these two on with Cliff. As if we're just gonna talk.
I actually have to get going.
Yeah,
I have
I
school
need to
today on
speak
Good
to-
Friday.
Yeah, you have to work today?
Yeah, Westford only has a half
Oh
day.
my gosh.
First time ever I've ever experienced this, so. it's
Thanks, Eileen, Good
interesting.
Friday.
Good
Yes.
Friday.
I'm gonna walk out with
Have a
you.
good Easter.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, happy
Nice to meet
Easter.
you as
Wait,
well.
where are you going?
I gotta go, man. That's why I have my
No,
jeans
no,
on.
no.
Nope, I gotta take
What about the
pictures and-
Sudoku thing?
The who?
The Sudoku.
They gave it up. The
That
answer's already
is-
there.
The last printable page in the Lowell Sun this morning was the Sudoku. But there are
I already
still
sold half of
several
it.
pages of the Lowell
Said I already
Sun
sold half of it, just
that I
staring at
can't
it.
print off.
Oh. I'll have to ask the copy
You
desk.
can
You
go
can
down.
take this with you.
They'll send you a paper copy.
I haven't seen Sudoku in years.
I what?
Oh, I
They'll
love
send you a paper copy.
it. Right there.
This one right here?
Yeah.
Right on. This is like
Eileen.
super paper.
Let's see.
Bye,
Guys, have a
Eileen.
good one.
Bye-bye.
Sweet.
Nice to meet you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Melanie, I'll see you in
All
2
right,
weeks.
Did I just kick that into?
Thanks
So-
for understanding.
All right,
Happy
see ya.
motoring.
You guys have been touching on something that I went to a meeting yesterday because you guys both know I talk to you guys all the time. I've been trying to get more collaboration with different nonprofits, different service providers here in the city. And somebody asked me yesterday, if I gave you a magic wand and you waved it and you could wave it around and fix any problem in the city, what would it be? I sat there for a second. And that's a tough question.
Very much so.
So I said, you know what? Collaboration. And he's like, was not expecting that answer. And I'm like, what do you mean? Can you elaborate on that? And I said, how can I single out one particular issue? We have a lot of great people, you with your co-program, and so many other people working on the recovery side of things. So many amazing people working on the food insecurity thing, which what's happening with the open pantry right now, it's showing up on Wednesday to an eviction notice. I was going to bring that up earlier when we were talking about landlords, evicting people just to, slap a little paint on there and jack the price up. Maybe that's not all that, but let's think about it. That's a prime location right now on Hurd Street. That's probably what they're trying to do. But we need more collaboration. We need more collaboration between the different service providers because, like I said to them, I was at a meeting with the CEO of Riverbend. That pantry closing, even though they don't deal with food insecurity, there's no way that's not going to have an effect on the recovery aspect of things. Because now these individuals that would go there and get, a bag of food or whatever it was, now they don't have that.
That's right.
So now their option is either the little bit of money they have, go buy something to eat or go buy something to get a fix. So who's going to have to, at the back end, the recovery aspect of it? But we don't realize that at the end of the day, all these issues that we have, like Cory was touching on, they're all connected. And people are like, well, no, I deal with food insecurity. What do I care what's happening over here? Well, I'm a nonprofit that in all reality, I'm a glorified real estate agency. Why do I need to help them? No, we all need to work together. And it starts, I think, with the city council and the legislators. They're so out of touch with what's happening right now. That's why I'm so happy that you two are running.
I appreciate that.
Because you with your work, not just as a Marine, as a Five, but as a community member, and you, what can we say about you? I mean, let's be tune in on a Tuesday, you know?
Shoulder.
Exactly. I mean, John
you
would
know-
tell me to be quiet if I start talking about you.
I think Cliff brought up a very important piece, though. I really do. I think when Cliff touched on the powers that be down the state house, in the state, pretty much. One of the problems is, and I think we've seen it on the city council. In the past 4 years, the dynamic of a councilor has changed tremendously. It seemed like for some time, up and down throughout history, you would see it was almost like the council forgot that the manager worked for them. They functioned and acted like they worked for the manager. I think that's what you're seeing with a lot of the state reps out there. I think in a lot of instances, but not necessarily coming from the powers that be, but more of the party politics. I think you have a lot of reps that are just more than happy to say, look at me, I'm a good worker bee, and carry the party politics forward. They don't vet these ideas. They don't really have any concerns about the impacts because, again, they just want to be seen as that worker bee. And that's where the disconnect lies. I think some people seek the praise of the in crowd or the party, whereas that constituent service core that you learn as an advocate in the union, especially because your boots on the ground and we're all rowing in the same direction. Quality of life conditions that you're negotiating for people, you have to get to know people's situations in the work environment on a personal level in order to be effective. And I think that's the same as a local elected city councilor and very much the same as a state rep. How can you effectively advocate for a community that you don't even understand fully? If you have to ask somebody and be kind of like a tourist around that community, and then you're gonna go step up to advocate for that community, that'd be like me jumping off a bus and taking a duck tour in Boston and then running for council in Boston.
Yeah.
How could I effectively advocate for that community when I don't know that community like that? And one of the most organic ways to fully understand a community is to be from that community, to ingrain yourself in that community. Yes, I'm a Centerville District Councilor. You can catch me downtown, you can catch me in South Lowell, you can catch me in Pawtucketville. I enjoy food. I enjoy just, in general, being out and about and networking and socializing. So, and my whole life has been that. So I fully understand the challenges faced, not just in Centerville, not just in Upper Centerville, not just in Lower Centerville, but in any of the neighborhoods that I travel to on a regular basis. I have conversations. I'm not being brought in as a tourist and led by the hand saying, hey, look at this, look at that. I'd rather put my hands on it and to fully understand it, because I think that helps you to form better, more sound decision-making when you're approaching to address a challenge or concern of that district.
So what did I say to you? At the end of the day, find me somebody that understands the needs and wants of that district. And I said this to you way before, you know?
But we're also fortunate, too. We have some of the greatest community leaders in Lowell that are out there on the streets, not so much in the social media, and they're getting the work done.
Absolutely.
And that collaborative effort, I'm going to say this right now, we should treat everything like the fire department done, I had said earlier. We're not looking at your party politics. We're not looking at what you look like. When there is a concern, we go and we address it regardless of who you are, and we will be there every single time. So if I'm going to go out there and address a concern, I don't care what side of the aisle you come from. I don't care what walk of life you are from. I don't care anything more so than what is going to ease your concerns, because as a firefighter, we're going to people in sometimes the worst day of their life. We have to take that feeling and that concept and adopt it to the politics side, where you're dealing with people that are around that kitchen table worrying, how can we get out of an apartment into a house? And we're looking at interest rates, we're looking at affordability issues, and we're also looking at health insurance going up, we're looking at food prices. There are so many things that we should all be getting on the same page with, and except for this great polarizing divide of that tribalism mentality of it's my side against your side, and what's getting lost is the middle. It's the people that are footing the bill on these consequences.
Absolutely.
I think that there is no room for politics in these kind of
Part
conversations.
of what you say is right, but the other part is it's not tribal politics in Massachusetts.
It's party politics.
It's party politics, and it's that troika down there.
Yep.
And I like using that word because it grabs the. You're
Hey, you
mumbling
leave-
again, John?
Leave that
But
alone.
Cliff, you
Don't
just
pick
made up
on
a good
Vlad.
really point, and I'm glad you said that. When we're talking about a predominant majority, okay, an overwhelming majority of having Democrats in the state, if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the state. I'm not talking about Massachusetts. I'm talking about Lowell and Tewksbury, the community leaders, the city council, the state reps that all have their finger on the pulse. We need to start addressing local issues and making sure local issues are being addressed, and having the people have their voices heard through, again, that conduit in which the information flows, and that's the positions. So yes, Massachusetts might be overwhelmingly red or blue. I don't care. What I care about is, what is this doing to impact the neighborhoods? How is South Lowell, Belvedere, downtown, and part of Tewksbury affected by these policies, and how can we go ahead and remedy this so it makes sense for them? Not every state policy has to be kicked down the street in Lowell, because Lowell is its own organic animal. We are special. We have so many cultural diversities. We have more events than I think anybody around us has. We celebrate the people, so now we should represent the people. So I don't care how overwhelmingly we are in one party. We need to take this down to grassroots and go door to door and say, what are your concerns? Call the city councilors and say, what are your concerns? Call the other state reps and say, for example, the district that I'm going to represent, it's only one precinct in Tewksbury. As far as I'm concerned, it's all of Tewksbury. I'm going to work with the other state reps and city council and say, what is on your agenda? What are the concerns of the people? I don't care what's going on at the State House as much as the concerns here. And then when I get there, hopefully I have colleagues like the gentleman on my left that know what's going to impact Lowell, and how can we get good policy that affects people in a positive way, regardless of party politics. And that's as simple as you can make it.
And I agree. I think the party politics, my problem is the party politics, if that's what's initiating the legislation and the policy that you're trying to pass, that's a problem.
I agree.
But on face value, if you take the party identification out of the equation, because say this gentleman is a Republican, I'm a Democrat. If we both travel that same road every day, twice a day, back and forth from work, and the road is in shambles, well, this Republican and this Democrat are still going to have damage to our vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is the road and the lack of the funding. That's where you have to get to the root and the core of the issue to address that challenge. And well, I don't want to give the money because the person that's asking for the money identifies with party A or B. That does nothing for the two of us that are damaging our vehicles over that road.
Let me ask both of you, because the real elephant in the room is,
Yes, sir.
the Democratic Party, they're either going to get behind you or they're not.
And that's fine.
And they just decided who run the state Senate race.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Vanna Howard has done zippity-doo-dah.
Oh, no, she signed up on the bill to bring a lottery to the vocational school, though.
Okay,
That was
so-
one of the people.
That woman, okay, has done nothing in my mind.
I just like to say that is zippity-doo-dah.
Yes, it is.
But he understands what zippity-doo-dah. She's done nothing. And yet, she won by 2,000 votes.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to embrace the Democratic Party leaders in this area
You don't.
if you want to get elected. If
You
you don't
don't.
want to do that, you're wasting your summer.
You know, they told me that when I first ran for city council. Well, you can get in with a machine and they'll help you with this. You know what I decided to do? Buy an extra pair of running sneakers.
That's it.
Door to door, one vote at a time. Because if you can't organically connect with those people that you're asking for their support, it's empty. And then you're owing that machine that went to work for you. I still think it's crazy to see that in the state rep races, people are hiring people not even from the city to go out and knock doors and drop literature. So if I'm a resident and you send a kid that lives in Acton to my door with a pamphlet in his hand, and I have any questions about the candidate, what are you going to tell me? Call them, email them, text them? If I'm asking for your support, I owe you a face-to-face conversation and explain and justify any questions you might have about me. And it's work. I mean, don't kid yourself.
Cory, she won by 2,000 votes.
Yes,
That's
there
a
was
whole
less
different-
than 4,200 people that came out. So now what you have to do is invigorate those people, those voters, and those 5 different municipalities, and that comes through conversation. So if you don't mind, if I may, when you say that it's a hybrid theory, I get what Cory's saying, and I get what you're saying, and I agree with both of them. They can both exist on the same plane. There should be a common ground. There has to be compromise. Obviously, people came out and put Vanna Howard in that state Senate seat. So there's things that she's representing, if we agree with them or not, that a good swath of people that
Agree
we're
with.
wanting to represent,
And they support that.
we have to hear them. We
Yep.
can't create this echo chamber. So on the other side of that, I also want to know that if I get to that seat, and I'm blessed enough to get there, you might remove me after that next term, but what you're not going to say is I flip-flopped. I didn't represent what the message was from the people that were giving it to me, and I'm going to stand on conviction, and I'm committed to that. I will not sell my soul. So that means if I'm doing what the people want, ultimately, if we don't like our leaders, what it comes down to is the voters are putting them there. So we have to at least identify what their concerns are, and if they feel that those concerns are being addressed by Vanna, and that's why they put her there, then my job is to talk to Vanna Howard as a state senator and saying, what is it that you're...
back.
Well, but it's all about compromise, sir. I got to make sure that if the people and the will of the people was to put her there, is there something policy that we can work together on?
Truth is, she won't call you back.
He hasn't tried yet.
But that's okay, because at least I can say I did my due diligence. Instead of shutting down that conversation, is I'm opening the lines of communication to say I'm willing to have it, because obviously the voters felt strong enough to overwhelmingly vote for her. So that means they're seeing something or a potential in her that she's going to deliver. My job would be to go ahead and compromise. And when I say compromise, I might not necessarily agree with all the politics. But if that's the will of the people and there's things that she's pushing, then there has to be something that I need to pay attention to. Because once we start creating this divide, and again, that echo chamber that separates us by default, you know who's paying the price on it? And it's a disservice?
We are.
The people.
The constituents.
But wait,
Yeah.
Anthony,
Absolutely.
4.55% of the registered voters showed up for the election.
71,000.
But there's variables in that. It
Well,
was an
well,
off-cycle special election.
But I want to point out something because
4.55%.
That's an
Cliff
important
is important. He touched on something very important, and I do think these people are well-intentioned
Yes.
and good-hearted. They genuinely, I think, do care about the community they live in, and they're vested to a point. Now, as far as you can be a great person, I've met everybody from custodians to mailmen to unemployed people that love the city. They're invested. They're good people. They genuinely care. They'd help their neighbor. They'd give you extra sugar if you knocked on the door. They're good people. But now when we get into the role of politics and advocacy and legislation, it goes back to when you have a political machine behind you, you skip the step of that one-on-one community building and
That's
getting
right.
familiar with your community.
That's right.
It's unnecessary because you have a machine that's going to put you where they want you to be. And if you look at the numbers, and I'm not trying to discredit anybody, but I think it's funny because I've heard this speaking point out there by others. Oh, the state listens to those that got 6,000 to 8,000 votes and not those that got 700 votes. Okay, I if that's your mentality, but let's look at this. That special election, right? 5 communities total were involved in that race.
So gross.
Total of votes, 4276 won that race. Our last local election, one community, Lowell only. Councilor Noon, 4,889 votes, and Councilor Gitchia, 4,705 votes. That's one community as opposed to 5 communities. And if you break it down by districts, I mean, Sean McDonough pulled more votes in his district than the winner of that special election did, just in that district. I pulled 300 more votes without a challenger just in my district than the winner of that special election did.
Administration didn't put the word out, it was voting day.
Yeah.
And it's.
I think all voting days, election days should be a day off.
I do not buy into that.
I think it should be a day off
do not-
holiday.
I don't buy into that because throughout history you've seen if people don't have something that they believe in and feel energized to get out there and vote for, they're not going to vote. I don't care if you send a limo outside their house that's blowing the horn with coffee and donuts at 7 a.m.
Exactly, voting is like golf, okay? You can't make somebody go and golf.
You can't.
Okay?
You can throw as much
You're either
money.
gonna be a voter or not a voter. Back over to Cliff.
It's the reality of it. And you see, I mean, on a national level, what do you think Obama did? Obama's campaign brought out a voting populace that probably never would have voted otherwise because he spoke to something.
Respectfully, Cory, it's not a presidential race. Back to Cliff.
Yeah, the voter turnout is a real problem. The at-large candidates for city council, school committee, they get elected by Belvedere and Pawtucketville and
Highlands.
the Highlands. They're the ones that make the decision.
But Cory, when I agreed with both Cory and John at the same time, Cory did a great job elaborating, but let's look at those numbers. Is the right messaging, when I said the will of the people came out that wanted the policies that I guess, obviously that candidate was going for. That shows me that another whole category of people did not come out. Either they weren't aware of the special election or they just weren't they weren't interested in what the policies were. That's where we come in. This is not your same broad stroke of policies and promises. What we need to do is invigorate that voting base and saying, if you are not happy with the outcome of where this state is heading, and then more importantly, Lowell, then give a candidate a chance that wants to make sure your voice is heard. And then that's what it comes down to. It's not just policy. It's making sure these people believe what you're saying. It's the authenticity of the candidate. And Cory's right. When those numbers are low, and again, an off-cycle voting, and again, it's going to result in another general election to keep the seat in November. So there might not be a lot of people coming out, especially for a primary. You might not get a lot of people out there. But if you can have contrasts in saying, does it matter who I vote for? Because they're going to vote the same at the House every single time. So what we need to do is have a genuine message, be sincere in it, and be committed to it, and have the discipline to make sure that even if it means you might not get the committees of your choosing, you are not going to flip-flop and do an about-face on what the people put you there to do. And I think if we can invigorate that message and invigorate the voters and they believe what it is you want to do wholeheartedly. Like for me, I did not wait for permission to take this opportunity. I didn't wait for my turn. I'm not going on any name notoriety. I'm not looking for anything else except for I'm out in the streets. I'm hearing what the people are and they're not happy. So if I can say that I'm not happy with them and they're willing to come out in the primary on September 1st and more importantly, if need be, in November, then let the people speak. But maybe they're not hearing the right message to come out because that is abysmal, those numbers. But
It's
are they not?
interesting to me the way the number of ballot initiatives has skyrocketed, because that says to me that the voters are not happy with the responsiveness of the state legislature.
I would agree with that.
I've said this time and time again on here with you guys, but at what point did the voters get up in the morning and look in the mirror and realize that if we have a problem with the speaker, which right now, that's the hardest thing right now. Everybody, the audit, the what is it, the trika,
Troika.
So why is it that those people's constituents are staying home? Stop complaining. It takes 5 minutes. Go and vote. At the end of the day,
they might not be hearing somebody that is saying the things that they can identify to.
No, and
That's
I got
what I
you,
said earlier. If I don't knock on your
get
door
out there.
and try to earn your support,
Absolutely.
why would you get up and go
absolutely.
vote? If I just send you a piece of mail or I send someone outside other than myself to your house asking for support, Why would you? There's no connection there.
I went door
Wait,
knocking yesterday.
Wait. Some of us vote because we feel it's our patriotic duty.
Completely agree.
That should be-
250th anniversary and all that stuff.
That should be the reality
But
of
that's
it.
why
We
you
talked
got the
about this
numbers.
yesterday, right?
That's
I
why
kinda
you see
lost
the
it.
numbers come out as they are. When you
right.
see 4,300 votes decide a Senate race, those are the people that do it because it's their patriotic duty.
Or the civic duty to make sure that they're putting in and contributing.
So now, if you want to see increase to percentages of voter participation, a lot of times we can't blame the voters. It's the candidates.
That's right.
If the candidates aren't out there working to earn that vote, you're not, guess what? You're not going to get voters.
This might not be a great analogy, but if you have a movie out there and nobody is interested in it, they're not going to go to the theaters to spend the money to watch it.
Exactly.
If you're not putting something out there that makes somebody look at you and say, you know what, I want to take a chance on this individual because I feel like they're going to fight. That's all I've been doing. Yes, I'm in my second term as the union president, but I know what it is to take other people's concerns and put them above yours.
Absolutely.
Because if I wanted to take personal interest in this, I'd be out and I would slander this person or this person. I don't agree with that. That's not me, and that's not my mentality. They have to understand they're there for the people. And if the movie's not interesting, they're not going to go to see it. So why don't we switch it up and get people interested again? And I don't even mean just tell them what they want to hear. I mean, when you say what you're going to do, they put you and you're fortunate enough to get that chair and you go up there and then you do an about face on every policy that you guaranteed the constituents you were going to represent. Don't be surprised if movie sales start to drop, because they're sick of the same song and dance.
Absolutely.
So if we already have individuals, like I said, we have great community leaders that have been fighting in the community, and it's an uphill battle. And what they need that's going to complement their efforts is people that are willing to get into that chair, complicate their lives. And I give a lot of credit to the opponents that are in this race, all of them, on Cory's side, my side. It takes courage to go under the lens of the public and be scrutinized and vetted. And you could have a lot of people saying negative and positive things, but the most important thing is are you going to have consistent messaging? And if they put you and you are fortunate enough to get to that position, are you going to do what they want, or are you going to just be another part of the problem?
Well, just to make you uncomfortable here, you keep saying these great leaders, but at least from where I stand, you're one of those great leaders, and that's why, like I said to you yesterday, it was important for you to be here today, because I wanted people to. So many people know you already behind the scenes, Bill, all the great work you've been doing, whether it's Megan House. I mean, I can sit here and there's a list like this of people that the second I say your name, I'm like, hold on, I know who that is. But because of your selflessness, because you don't want the spotlight, the community doesn't know who you are. And they don't realize that all these great things that you have been doing.
Thank you, Jose.
So you've already said it 3 times, and I had to call you out on that. You are one of those great leaders we have in this community.
We're down to 5 minutes.
Oh,
Thank you, Jose.
I'm going to take 1 minute to talk about a scam that my grandson came across. He got a parking ticket downtown Lowell, paid it online, and then he got a notice online saying that the Superior Court wants to know where the money is. Well, it turns out that's a scam, so we all need to be careful about scams.
I agree with you.
So with the amount of time left, I want each of you to take 2 minutes and give us your elevator speech. And I'll start with Cory, and then I'll go to Anthony.
Please.
Thank you, Cliff. As I mentioned earlier, this is a natural progression for this position that I'm running for, which is currently the state rep of the 16th Middlesex. I'm sure there'll be scrutiny of personal situations that happened in the past, but it's to be expected. In reality, let's look at my voting history, the way I've always kept an eye on constituent services and the will of the people. I'm not talking about if I got elected, this is how I would act, or this is how I would like to address these challenges. You can go back on LTC and see exactly how I've been addressing challenges for the past 4 years plus, and I'll be doing it again this Tuesday. All of this is driven and originates from our neighborhoods, our communities. I don't have all the answers, and most of the time, those solutions are coming from our neighbors. I have no problem listening. I have no problem understanding, and I truly enjoy working with and for the residents, and I'm asking for their support to continue this work that we've already began, but on the next level. I think it's time that the residents of Lowell and North Chelmsford work together and send our concerns to Beacon Hill instead of continuing to allow Beacon Hill to tell us what their concerns are without any kind of consideration for the unintended consequences that impact our communities on a daily life. So thank you very much, and I look forward to this campaign, and I look forward to getting out and having as many conversations with as many of our neighbors and residents as possible. Thank you very much.
Well said, Cory. To kind of parrot some of what Cory's saying, I myself, running for the 17th Middlesex District, I have to say that I am a proud son of Lowell. Lowell has embraced me, has created opportunities that allow me to take better care of my family, my loved ones, my friends, my neighbors, and has embraced me in such a way that I can't duplicate that with anywhere else I've ever been, and I've been to quite a few places with military and just overall my life where it's taken me, and I can honestly say that I've never felt more home than I've ever had with Lowell. So I owe Lowell a debt of gratitude that has been able to provide what I needed to take care of not only myself, but my family, and again, those that I love. Even with the job, best job in the world, I have a debt to the city, and I will pay it back, and how I will do that is through service. I served my country proudly because I wanted to rise to the occasion. I stand for what our Constitution means and what our country means, and I took that to community service because I believe that where you are at any level, it is your duty to improve upon it at every level. And with every escalation in your life that you have, now you have that responsibility to do your due diligence even more and represent more and pay back that debt that you owe on a city that has, again, warm embraced, loved me, and has allowed me to live and flourish. So when we say, hey, come out and meet your candidates, no, I want to go out and meet my neighbors even more. I've listened to the conversations. I've been in the streets. I'm going to continue to be out there like I always have, and I appreciate the kind words from Jose. I don't want to consider myself, I like to say I'm humble, but you're right, being behind the scenes, I didn't wait for somebody to tap my shoulder and say, this is something you might want to do. The opportunity presented itself, and since I'm already dealing with the concerns and doing the work, I said, why not get to another tier that allows more capabilities and more
30
resources?
seconds.
So I just wanted to say that I hope that I can earn your respect and your support, and I'm willing to do the work. I have been doing the work, and I will continue to do so, and all I ask is that you come out, let your voices be heard, let me know what your concerns are, and you will have a fighter wherever I need to go to make your voices heard and to make sure those policies better serve Lowell that has served us.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Cory.
Thank you for having
And to
us.
the audience, I wish you all a very happy Easter.
Happy
Yes,
Easter,
happy
everybody.
Easter, and thank you
Have
for
a
having
great
me here.
weekend.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Thanks for watching.
See you in 2 weeks.
But I don't do that when he's here.
So I'm also on the first, actually.
29th.
May
First?
Yeah, we can do the thing on the 29th. Want to do the 29th?
Aye.